Hi, everyone. Um, First, I want to apologize for the length of time it has taken me to do this next video. Just a lot's been going on. And I kind of mentioned last time I wanted to talk about the three waves of volunteers, and I didn't get a chance to talk about it. I will try to keep this video under 20 minutes, and I appreciate if you subscribe to my videos below. Like my video or comment, please. I would love to hear from you. And so let's go into it. Let's get right into it. There are three waves, and these are based upon what Dolores Cannon, who had passed in October of 2014, was a hypnosis regression practitioner, and she wrote about 20 books or so. And I put a link in the last video in description box, and I will include a link here to this as well. So in her book, The Three Waves of Volunteers and the New Earth, she talks about the three different waves. So I want to go into that, and then I'm going to discuss kind of the earth changes, what we're seeing now, and kind of go into a little more detail on kind of how the planet got to be like it is. So first, we'll go on the first wave of volunteers. And these, mind you, the three waves are volunteers. The volunteers are typically from other realms. These are from other planets. They're higher dimensional beings who descended into the third dimension, incarnated into a physical body. Now, it is similar to like when somebody passes in this physical realm and they go into the astral realm or heaven or whatever you want to call it, and they wait there to incarnate again into a physical body. So this is kind of similar, except the astral realm, heaven or astral realm, is connected just to the earth. That's fourth dimensional. The fifth dimensional higher are other realms existing in the universe, and it goes all the way up back to source or creator. Okay, God, source, creator. So the first wave were those who were born between the 1940s and 1960s, I would say probably early 60s. These were the baby boomers. These were the way showers, the first group who really brought in the energy to change the planet. They were the hippies, peace, love, drugs, sex, all that stuff, you know. So these brought in that different energy to try and change the planet at that time, to really bring in that energy from a higher perspective, higher dimension, because so much of the energy on the planet has been trapped here and it hasn't changed for millennia. And this cycle has kept on repeating itself over and over and over again. And the only way to change that, they thought, was to source or creator bring in volunteers to assist with, how do I say, a different consciousness, a different way of thinking, a different way of being, and to help change that energy and bring that energy in. So that was the first wave. They were really kind to their energy, where they were mainly they were really protest movement. Like I said, they paved the way, kind of brought the energy in. Then the second wave, which were born in the 1970s, I would say, to the early 1990s. And this group, and I was actually, from my hypnosis sessions, I'm a star seed that came from that second wave. I I had one other Earth life here, and the rest were in other realms. So this group, the second wave group, were a group who typically receive the energy. So they they receive the energy through energy portals from the higher dimensions, from source to, they're like radio antennas, okay, or TV antennas, towers, or however you want to call it. They absorb that energy and they send it out. So it kind of gets filtered through them and then it gets sent out. There are, like I said, a lot of observers in this group in the second wave. They really kind of observing what's happening on the planet. It doesn't mean necessarily that these group just only observe, but they came here to do, to really just kind of hold the energy, bring the energy in, ground it into the planet, and then send it out to other people. Okay. So the next group, the third wave, which were probably considered the oh, and by the way, the second wave typically the second wave like to be more alone. They do have relationships, but they typically don't have children because a lot of times children have created where it creates karma. And what I mean by that is, and it's not a negative thing, it's just when they have children, it changes their role, their why they're here. Okay, so that's the main reason why a lot of these star seeds in the second wave haven't had children. Now, the third wave were really typically born from the 90s, late 90s to the present. Now, and there's more and more that are coming in. So the third wave, are really got of energy. You can call them indigo children or rainbow children, or there's crystal children, and there's a lot of different names. There's this group. Many have remembered their past lives already. Many of them came in with their DNA already encoded to more than 2 strands. I actually read an article from a Russian scientist who researched this, and I'll have to do, if you need the information, I can find it for you. But he tested a group of children from Asian countries, and he found out that they had more than 2 chromosomes, more than 2 strands of DNA. So many of these, and this third wave, like I said, their DNA has already been activated, where they have more abilities, like maybe they have where they're very sense other people's. They're telepathic more. They can communicate with animals more. And I'm not saying all these volunteers can't do that, or other people cannot do that. We all have that ability. It's just that sometimes humanity, who have been incarnated over and over, have lost that ability so much because they've been trapped into this karmic wheel. So other part of this third wave too, there's a lot of ADHD, and that's when a lot of these children really need more challenging, I should say, learning environment. They struggle. They could have Asperger's. Some are which is a part of autism. But they're very talented. A lot of them are child geniuses. They're very artistic, musicians. They're very advanced. So these are the third wave coming in. Okay, the screen just went dark. Okay. Anyway. So now it brings me to what I want to talk about, the Earth changes and what we're kind of seeing now. So as we go through this process, and first, before I forget to say this, I will put a link in the description box for Dolores Cannon's the book, The 3 Waves of Volunteers in New Earth. So you can go right directly to her website, and if you want to order that book, amazing amount of information in there. It totally changed everything that I believed and thought. So right now, Earth changes we're seeing. So as we go through this ascension process, and I can't remember if I covered this last time or not, but I will cover this. As people get to awaken, we call it awakening, which is you kind of start to see the truth for what it really is, the reality. Your consciousness starts to change, your beliefs change, everything about you starts to change. So as you begin to open up yourself more to this higher consciousness, this higher energy that's coming in from these 3 waves, or from directly from Creator Source, you start to develop more maybe abilities, like say telepathic abilities. You can be more, there's a lot of empaths. You can maybe communicate with spirit souls who have crossed over. There's just all kinds of things that open you up. And so your consciousness starts to shift to a higher frequency, a higher dimension. The other aspect of it, so you could say, your consciousness can be at a 5th dimensional or higher level, but the body is still considered existing right now in this 3rd dimension. It's this density. So the body also has to go through an I can never say that word, but alchemical process. Excuse me, I apologize. The body also has to change. So the body physically has to change to a lighter density, a lighter version of itself. And what happens is as the brain or the mind is changing to a higher frequency, the body also goes through these changes physically. And so there's a lot of different symptoms that I covered in the last time. I believe I covered that, all those symptoms. And so in order to get from third to fifth, there's a lot of drastic changes that has to happen. Now the earth changes that we're seeing that are happening. So the earth, she is a living being just like we are. So the earth has to go through its changes too. Now many of these earth changes are man-made, but also there are many, the climate is always changing. So climate is always changing. There isn't a global warming, there isn't, it's just call it climate change, because the earth has changed, went through many periods, went through ice ages, it went through different periods on this planet. So the planet also has to expand. The physical body, the physical vessel has to change to a lighter version. And what that means is it's got to be cleansed. So what we're seeing is we're seeing earthquakes, floods, volcanoes going off. We're seeing massive amounts of destruction. And it's because what's happening is the earth, just like the physical symptoms that the body is going through, the earth is going through her own physical symptoms as well. And the energy changes to a higher vibration. So we're seeing, there's an experiment that was done, and I'll try to remember to put this in the description box. But this one scientist, actually I don't even know if it's a scientist, one person, it's called the rice experiment. And what they did was they had 3 jars of rice. One jar, and this is all about energy, okay? One jar, they did talk to the rice, saying good positive affirmations and things like that. The second jar, it was more negative wording and negative connotations to the second rice. The third jar of rice was completely ignored. And so what ended up happening was when the focus changed to the rice didn't change. So what I mean was the rice, the more you focus, whether you give somebody your positive or negative energy, you are going to give them energy. So what happened is the rice that was in the positive jar and the rice in the negative jar, it didn't change. It didn't rot. Does that make sense? It didn't rot. It didn't break down. The third jar, which was the jar that was ignored, ended up rotting and ended up kind of just falling away. So my point in this is energy. Earth changes are the same thing. The more you focus on whether it's the planet, the people, or whatever, the more it's going to, I don't know if that makes sense, but you see it kind of. So what I'm trying to say is, and I'm not following this up good, and I apologize, but when you ignore something, when you ignore it, whether a person or place or somebody that's in power, they lose their power. Okay, does that make sense? So the more you focus on somebody, whether it be positive or negative, you give them energy. Okay, so anyway, that kind of really didn't tie in, and I apologize, but I had written it down because I wanted it to talk about that briefly. So the other thing is, so many look to the outside. Part of these changes is we're always looking on the outside for answers through this ascension process. I know I'm jumping around here and I apologize. I'm just trying to cover things that I had written down that I really wanted to talk about at the time. Now it seems like it's not really relevant, but anyway. So look, we need to look within and change within ourselves, because the change in the inside will reflect on the outside always. Or so whether our change in consciousness, it will change on the outside. We will see it in our physical reality, the materialistic world. It will change. Learn to trust your intuition more. So that could be, let's say, for example, maybe you were supposed to go on a trip or something, and you had to leave, and you just had a bad feeling about it. You just don't know what it was, but you had a bad feeling about it. And I mean, this happened to me personally back in year 2000. I was coming up to a wedding here in the family. I lived in Wisconsin at the time, and I had this bad feeling, bad feeling that I shouldn't go. And I thought, okay, you know what? I got to go to this wedding because it was what I thought was best, what I should do. So I got up there, everything was fine. Got on the way home, I got in a major car accident, and that's when I had all my problems that I ended up developing with my neck and everything. So anyway, so my point is, trust your intuition. That's your intuition. If you feel it's not good, then just go with it. During these earth changes, during this ascension, leaders, I will say this, leaders are not going to solve the problem for humanity. As you can see, they're too busy fighting amongst themselves, and there's a big power struggle happening on right now, and I'll kind of try to talk about that. I will do my best. I'm already reaching too far into that. So I might save that for next time, another video to discuss how the planet was infiltrated by dark beings, okay? So I'll just cover that next time, because there's a lot to cover on that. So, as long as there's money involved, there's always going to be corruption. Always on this planet, because you have big corporations who are trying to put their money into it and won't allow changes to happen. But what's going to end up happening is the system, as people's consciousness is changing really rapidly right now, it breaks down that system. It forces the change. The energy pushes the change, because we are creator beings. As I had posted this on my Facebook page, humanity are creator beings. We create the reality around us. So if you have a big group of people's consciousness changing, who are tired of this type of system, who want to change, who want free energy or no money system or whatever it is, it will happen. You will see things break down. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing this change in consciousness, which is evolution. We're evolving. Okay. So that is kind of how I wanted to wrap it around too. Now, I will try to do another video in action in a couple of days, because I really want to touch upon this, and I'm getting too close to 20-minute mark. I don't want to do these too long, these videos. I want to talk about timelines, and then I want to talk about how the dark has manipulated the timelines and what I mean by that. And I want to kind of break that in, because there is a lot more to cover in that topic. So again, I thank you for watching the video. I appreciate if you subscribed below, you liked the video, please send me questions if you have. And I will, like I said, include a link for the book, Three Waves of Volunteers, in the description box. And until next time, I will see you later, and I appreciate it again. Thank you.